In this video, I go through the best of Marcus Aurelius's meditations. I feel that these could help a lot of people if they're put to practical use, because these really resonated with me. So this is from the book Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So a slight bit of context, Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, and he used to do what we call journaling nowadays. And this book was made from his journal that was found many years later. So he just wrote it for himself, it wasn't for anyone else. And he was a philosopher and a bit of a, he wouldn't call himself a Stoic then, it says, but we call it Stoicism, what he was doing. So this is pretty much his lost journal with great wisdom inside. So this was found and later turned into many books, as you can see, and in many different translations as well, because his was in Greek. So this is now what is called Stoicism and philosophy. Also, I can't really simplify this or make it shorter, because then it wouldn't be Marcus Aurelius's words. So I'm going to read the ones I picked out from the book that I felt were the most understandable and obviously the best. So I'm going to read them word for word. But again, you can get the book if you want it. It'll be top of the description and you can read it all for yourself. So the first thing I'd highlighted in the book was this, where he was thanking people in his life for certain things he'd learnt from them. So there was actually a lot. There was loads of pages on this. But the thing I picked out was, he said, "My great-grandfather, to avoid the public schools, to hire good private teachers, and to accept the resulting cost as money well spent." So even back then, there was obviously issues with public schools, and he knew that the best you get taught is from private teachers, and also education is always money well spent. And then the first thing in Meditations, he ever wrote in the book 2, on the River Gran it was called, Among the Quadi. "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognised that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands and eyes, like the 2 rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, turn your back on him. These are obstructions." The next one is about actually doing things. Remember how long you've been putting this off, how many extensions the gods gave you, and you didn't use them. At some point you have to recognise what world it is that you belong to, what power rules it, and from what source you spring, that there is a limit to the time assigned you, and if you don't use it to free yourself, it will be gone and will never return. So that's about not wasting your time, and also when opportunities are given to you, or when you should be doing something, just do it, don't put it off. And then this is a great one, which is a big part of Stoicism. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. If the gods exist, then to abandon human beings is not frightening. The gods would never subject you to harm, and if they don't exist, or don't care what happens to us, what would be the point of living in a world without gods or providence? But they do exist. They do care what happens to us, and everything a person needs to avoid real harm, they have placed within him. If there were anything harmful on the other side of death, they would have made sure that the ability to avoid it was within you. If it doesn't harm your character, how can it harm your life? Nature would not have overlooked such dangers through failing to recognise them, or because it saw them but was powerless to prevent or correct them. Nor would it ever, through inability or incompetence, make such a mistake as to let good and bad things happen indiscriminately to good and bad alike. But death and life, success and failure, pain and pleasure, wealth and poverty, all these happen to good and bad alike, and they are neither noble nor shameful, and hence neither good nor bad. So there's a lot put in there, you've just got to kind of understand it, but it's saying there's no good and bad, it's again your perception, which I've said in many videos. There's also, it's saying that if there's an issue, you can solve it within you. So I just want to pick out this part from what I just said. If it doesn't harm your character, how can it harm your life? This line emphasises the intrinsic value of one's character over external circumstances or events. The author suggests that true harm or damage comes from compromising or damaging one's character rather than facing external adversities. So it's really just character over circumstances. This line implies that while external events and situations may occur, they are beyond our control, which is a thing that's said a lot in Stoicism and philosophy. They do not necessarily define or harm us. Instead, it's our reaction to these events and how they shape our character that truly matters. And then with internal strength, it suggests that our internal qualities, virtues and values play a more significant role in determining our well-being and happiness than external factors. This next meditation is about human life. It says, duration momentary, nature changeable, perception dim, condition of body decaying, soul spinning around, fortune unpredictable, lasting fame uncertain. Sum up, the body and its parts are a river, the soul a dream and mist. Life is warfare and a journey far from home. Lasting reputation is oblivion. Then what can guide us? Only philosophy, which means making sure that the power within stays safe and free from assault, superior to pleasure and pain, doing nothing randomly or dishonestly, and with imposture, not dependent on anyone else doing something or not doing it, and making sure that it accepts what happens and what it is dealt as coming from the same place it came from. And above all, that I accept death in a cheerful spirit as nothing but the dissolution of the elements from which each living thing is composed. If it doesn't hurt the individual elements to change continually into one another, why are people afraid of all of them changing and separating? It's a natural thing, and nothing natural is evil. The next meditation, not just that every day more of our life is used up and less of it is left, but this too. If we live longer, can we be sure our mind will still be up to understanding the world, to the contemplation that aims at divine and human knowledge? If our mind starts to wander, we'll still go on breathing, go on eating, imagining things, feeling urges and so on. But getting the most out of ourselves, calculating where our duty lies, analysing what we hear and see, deciding whether it's time to call it quits, all the things you need a healthy mind for, all those are gone. So we need to hurry. Not just because we move daily closer to death, but also because our understanding, our grasp of the world may be gone before we get there. Next meditation, this is a really good one as well. Don't waste the rest of your time here worrying about other people unless it affects the common good. It will keep you from doing anything useful. You'll be too preoccupied with what so-and-so is doing, and why and what they're saying, and what they're thinking, and what they're up to, and all the other things that throw you off and keep you from focusing on your own mind. You need to avoid certain things in your train of thought. Everything random, everything irrelevant, and certainly everything self-important or malicious. You need to get used to winnowing your thoughts, so that if someone says, "What are you thinking about?" you can respond at once and truthfully that you are thinking this or thinking that, and it would be obvious at once from your answer that your thoughts were straightforward and considerate ones, the thoughts of an unselfish person, one unconcerned with pleasure and with sensual indulgence, generally with squabbling, with slander and envy, or anything else you'd be ashamed to be caught thinking. Someone like that, someone who refuses to put off joining the elect, is a kind of priest, a servant of the gods, in touch with what is within him and what keeps a person undefiled by pleasures, invulnerable to any pain, untouched by arrogance, unaffected by meanness, an athlete in the greatness of all contests, the struggle not to be overwhelmed by anything that happens, with what leaves us dyed indelibly by justice, welcoming wholeheartedly whatever comes, whatever we're assigned, not worrying too often or with any selfish motive, and what other people say, or do, or think. He does only what is his to do, and considers constantly what the world has in store for him, doing his best, and trusting that all is for the best, for we carry our fate with us, and it carries us. He keeps in mind that all rational things are related, and that to care for all human beings is part of being human, which doesn't mean we have to share their opinions. We should listen only to those whose lives conform to nature, and the others. He bears in mind what sort of people they are, both at home and abroad, by night as well as day, and who they spend their time with. and he cares nothing for their praise, men who can't even meet their own standards. The next one is how to act. Never under compulsion, out of selfishness, without forethought, with misgivings. Don't gussy up your thoughts. No surplus words or unnecessary actions. Let the spirit in you represent a man, an adult, a citizen, a Roman, a ruler, taking up his post like a soldier and patiently awaiting his recall from life, needing no oath or witness, cheerfulness without requiring other people's help, or serenity supplied by others, to stand up straight, not straightened. The next one. Forget everything else, keep hold of this alone and remember it. Each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already, or is impossible to see. The span we live is small, small as the corner of the earth in which we live it, small as even the greatest renown, passed from mouth to mouth by short-lived stick figures, ignorant alike of themselves and those long dead. The next one. If you seek tranquility, do less, or, more accurately, do what's essential, what the low goals of a social being requires, and in the requisite way, which brings a double satisfaction to do less better. Because most of what we say and do is not essential, if you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and more tranquility. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? But we need to eliminate unnecessary assumptions as well, to eliminate the unnecessary actions that follow. The next one. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do, or is this what I was created for, to huddle under the blankets and stay warm? But it's nicer here. So you were born to feel nice, instead of doing things and experiencing them. Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants and spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can? And you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? But we have to sleep sometime. Agreed, but nature set a limit on that, as it did on eating and drinking, and you're over the limit. You've had more than enough of that, but not of working. There you're still below your quota. You don't love yourself enough, or you love your nature too, and what it demands of you. People who love what they do wear themselves down doing it. They even forget to wash or eat. Do you have less respect for your own nature than the engraver does for engraving, the dancer for the dance, the misser for the money, or the social climber for the status? When they're really possessed by what they do, they'd rather stop eating and sleeping than give up practicing their arts. Is helping others less valuable to you, not worth your effort? The next one. If an action or utterance is appropriate, then it's appropriate for you. Don't be put off by other people's comments and criticism. If it's right to say or do it, then it's the right thing for you to do or say. The others obey their own lead, follow their own impulses. Don't be distracted. Keep walking, follow your own nature, and follow nature along the road they share. The next one is like seeing roasted meat and other dishes in front of you and suddenly realising this is a dead fish, a dead bird, a dead pig, or that this noble vintage is grape juice, and the purple robes are sheep wool dyed with shellfish blood, or making love, something rubbing against your, a brief and a little perception like that, latching onto things and piercing through them, so we see what they really are. That's what we need to do all the time, all through our lives, when things lay claim to our trust, to lay them bare and see how pointless they are, to strip away the legend that encrusts them. Pride is a master of deception. When you think you're occupied in the weightiest business, that's when he has you in his spell. Compare crates on xenocrates. The next one is frightened of change. But what can exist without it? What's closer to nature's heart? Can you take a hot bath and leave the firewood as it was? Eat food without transforming it? Can any vital process take place without something being changed? Can't you see? It's just the same with you and just as vital to nature. The next one. We have various abilities present in all rational creatures as in the nature of rationality itself, and this is one of them. Just as nature takes every obstacle, every impediment, and works around it, turns it to its purpose, incorporate it into itself, so, too, a rational being can turn each setback into raw material and use it to achieve its goal. This is a really good point. It's so amazing how all these different meditations wrote 2,000 years ago, how they link to their now when it was so long ago. And that's pretty much saying that every bad thing that happens to you, you can turn it into a good thing or see what good it's given you. And then this is one of the best parts in the book. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it says, today I escaped from anxiety, or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. So I'm going to say a very short part on this because there's certain things you can't say, but mental health problems, if you work out how to fix them, they're pretty much, well, the mental health, they're in your mind, and you can control what's in your mind, not external forces. So if you look into Stoicism and philosophy and look into nutrition, then that can help you. The next one is to live a good life. We have the potential for it. If we can learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference, this is how we learn. By looking at each thing, both the parts and the whole, keeping in mind that none of them can dictate how we perceive it. They don't impose themselves on us. They hover before us, unmoving. It is we who generate the judgments, inscribing them on ourselves, and we don't have to. We could leave the page blank, and if a mark slips through, erase it instantly. Remember how brief is the attentiveness required, and then our lives will end. And why is it so hard when things go against you? If it's imposed by nature, accept it gladly and stop fighting it, and if not, work out what your own nature requires and aim at that, even if it brings you no glory. None of us is forbidden to pursue our own good. This next part is from a really big part of the book. I think there's 9 points to this, and I picked out one of them, which is important. That kindness is invincible, provided it's sincere, not ironic or an act. What can even the most vicious person do if you keep treating him with kindness and gently set him straight? If you get the chance, correcting him cheerfully at the exact moment that he's trying to do you harm. No, my friend, that isn't what we're here for. It isn't me who's harmed by that, it's you. And show him gently, without pointing fingers, that it's so. That bees don't behave like this or any other animal, with a sense of community. Don't do it sardonically or meanly, but affectionately, with no hatred in your heart, and not ex cathedra or to impress third parties, but speaking directly, even if there are other people around. Keep these 9 points in mind, like gifts from the 9 muses, and start becoming a human being, now and for the rest of your life. And along with not getting angry at others, try not to pander either. Both are forms of selfishness. Both of them will do you harm. When you start to lose your temper, remember, there's nothing manly about rage. It's courtesy and kindness that define a human being, and a man. That's who possesses strength and nerves and guts, not the angry whiners. To react like that brings you closer to impassivity, and so to strength. Pain is the opposite of strength, and so is anger. Both are things we suffer from and yield to. The next one is, it never cases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. If a god appeared to us, or a wise human being, even and prohibited us from concealing our thoughts or imagining anything without immediately shouting it out, we wouldn't make it through a single day. That's how much we value other people's opinions instead of our own. The next one, 3 things essential at all times. Your own actions, that they're not arbitrary or different from what abstract justice would do. External events, that they happen randomly or by design. You can't complain about chance, you can't argue with providence. In what all things are like, from the planting of the seed to the quickening of life, and from its quickening to its relinquishment, where the parts came from and where they return to. That if you were suddenly lifted up and could see life and its variety from a vast height, and at the same time all the things around you, in the sky and beyond it, you'd see how pointless it is, and no matter how often you saw it, it would be the same life forms, the same lifespan. Arrogance about this. Throw out your misperceptions and you'll be fine. And who's stopping you from throwing them out? To be angry at something means you've forgotten that everything that happens is natural, that the responsibility is theirs, not yours, and further, that whatever happens has always happened and always will, and it is happening at this very moment, everywhere. Just like this, what links one human being to all humans, not blood or birth, but mind, and that an individual mind is God and of God, that nothing belongs to anyone, children, body, life itself, all of them come from that same source, that it's all how you choose to see things, that the present is all we have to live in or to lose. I imagine you've all heard of healthy body, healthy mind, so this is one part of the puzzle. The other part of the puzzle is nutrition, which facilitates a healthy mind and a healthy body. So you should watch this video on screen now that is the truth about the foods we eat.